Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Andrea. I'm reintroducing myself as more people arrive, and I also just really want people to know how to pronounce my name because I keep hearing it in different ways on the internet. So it's Andrea because it's Eastern European, so it's like you have to pronounce all the letters like Andrea. I've also been gone for the last week. I went to Montreal. I took a little trip. It was 1 week of, just a new space, a new place. And for me, it's not that far, but I did fly. And when I got there, I didn't realize how much colder it was gonna be. There was like so much snow. I saw a reel recently where someone said that Montreal is like if Siberia and France had a baby, and that's kind of what it felt like. But my main goal while I was there was to obviously explore the museums and the art galleries and all of the touristy things, but I also looked up a lot of their bookstores, specifically their used bookstores, because I really wanted to find books that I wouldn't find here. I tried to go for things I can't just order online that easily. And before I get to the actual Montreal haul, I just want to mention a few things because I feel like a bunch of stuff has happened and they're kind of like housekeeping, I guess, now. So the first thing, which is something I keep forgetting to mention, but it's really exciting, Weird Frequencies. This is a book that's coming out soon, and it's a weird fiction, science fiction anthology, and all of the people in it are booktubers, and it's edited by Jake from the channel Pulp Mortem. Now, I'm in it too, and I'm really excited to have written a story this year. I've been meaning to get back into writing, and honestly, when Jake asked me to participate, I went into like a trance. I just really tuned in and just wrote my story, and it was so much fun that I really want to keep doing this. I think I'd really like to keep writing just for fun. I don't know, maybe I'll make a Substack with my stories or just write for fun and not publish them anywhere. But it was so much fun. I have read a few people's stories in this anthology in the early stages, and I can't wait to read the final. I'm not sure when it's coming out yet. We're in the very final stages of kind of formatting, but when it does come out, I will let you know. I will tell you the premise of my story, which is, what if AI ran a funeral home and the people left in it are a little weird? I don't know if it turned out as great as I pictured it in my head, and it was weirdly inspired by Monsters, Inc. Speaking of Jake, recently I had my first live stream on this channel. I've joined other people's live streams before and tested out the waters, and I wanted to try it out on my own as well, because I might have more going forward by myself or with other people, and I just wanted to know what it's like. So I set up my own live stream just like a day or two ago, and Chris from Liminal Spaces and Jake from Pulp Mortem were there, and the whole premise of that live stream was to show off weird and odd books that you don't generally see on BookTube. I guess BookTube has this weird thing where people either go super classics or they do new publications since BookTube's been a thing, so early 2010s or late 2000s. And I think there's this weird in-between space of books that have just kind of been left behind. It's like Paperbacks from Hell, which have recently had a revival with Hendricks and Erickson's book, and people reading those now, but also obscure corners of the 20s and 30s and weird science fiction, and also even late 90s or early 2000s. So it's kind of interesting to now look for those and to have a group of friends who also kind of hunt them a little bit and to talk about them, or at least just show them to people. And then the last thing that I want to talk about, that's kind of more of an announcement, is about Robert T. Howard. Now, my friends Chris and Jake from before that I just mentioned recently went on a literary pilgrimage, and the pilgrimage was to Cross Plains, Texas, which is a very small town, and it's where Robert T. Howard lived. Robert T. Howard wrote Conan and many, many things. He wrote a lot, actually, and he died at age 30. So when you look at his entire corpus, it's quite stunning and incredible that he had so much creativity in him. And I've been meaning to read his biography for the entire year, and I never got to it. It's kind of been dormant on my shelf. And recently I've had this like yearning to just pick it up and read it because of this live stream and the videos that followed from Chris and Jake, where they went to see his house, and you kind of get this full image of this person and the life he led and how he lived and how he created, and it's so sad and beautiful all at once, and I really want to get to it. But the reason that all of these things are popping up is because the house in itself was kind of created as a museum in the 80s. It's been worked on over time, and it's now kind of suffering. It is an artifact in itself, right? It's like a museum. And the thing I've learned about working in a rare book library and a museum is that things need to be constantly maintained. And if you don't do that, it just falls apart. There's termites, there's pests, there's all kinds of things, especially when it's an unstable climate, right? So if you have places like Texas or humid places or dry places, books and furniture and stairwells and all kinds of foundational structural things on houses, you know, they're at risk. So right now the Robert T. Howard Foundation is trying to collect donations to renovate or to support the maintenance of this museum. And Chris and Jake went to the house and they looked at it and they filmed everything, including, you know, how the house is pretty much held on 2 bricks right now. And it's really, really sad. And it's like the more I learn about this whole lore around Robert T. Howard and see the house and learn about all the things, I don't know, it's been kind of mesmerizing. And I will link things down below if you're interested in looking into it, or if you're just like me, interested in renovation projects and preservation of cultural heritage and history. Yeah, I'll link all of the things down below. If you want to support it in any way, please do so. And I will be talking about Robert T. Howard a lot more on this channel. And now I'm going to start talking about the books a little bit. And just jumping off of the Robert T. Howard Foundation is that they also have printed and published a lot of Robert T. Howard books, and they kind of theme them. And after I posted my video about Conan in September, for Sumerian September, the Robert T. Howard Foundation reached out to me and said, hey, thank you so much for bringing some attention to Robert T. Howard. Would you like to select a book that we've created? And if so, which one would you like? And at first I was looking at their piratey one, but I've already read all the pirate ones. So I asked for this one, Weird Menace, Tales of Weird Menace, featuring Skullface. I really like this cover. But yeah, they have amazing books out there. I might actually start collecting these too because they're pretty great. But I'm super grateful to have received this, and it was my pleasure to talk about Robert T. Howard. And I will definitely be reading a lot more. I got a few more books actually since that video came out. I guess another booktube kind of related thing is Dino November. That's still happening, by the way. It's still November, so we're still reading dinosaur books. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I have a lot of videos. Other people have videos. We're reading books about dinosaurs in November. If you want to, you can read classics, short stories, novels, fiction, weird books, anything you want. I went to the museum earlier in the month, so I fulfilled a few things, and I'm still reading through the Dinotopia book by Alan Dean Foster. I'm buddy reading this with Bryan from the channel Bad Taste Books, and I'm also audiobooking The Lost World by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, so that's been a lot of fun. But when I was in Montreal, I went to their Dinos Alive exhibit. It was mostly animatronic kind of things, but it was so much fun. It was mostly me and a bunch of enthusiastic toddlers, but it was so much fun. I stayed there a long time, and it was worth every minute. I guess if you like seeing dinosaurs to scale, it's kind of interesting. Like, I don't know, I never processed what they would look like and feel like, and some of them were massive, but I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I don't know if you guys go to those like weird coming alive exhibits. First bookstores that I went to were kind of modern ones with newly published books. But then when I went to the rare bookstores, which was a bit of a bus ride away, the first book that greeted me by the door was Alfred Hitchcock Presents Stories for Late at Night. And it is hardcover, but what I loved about this book was the dust jacket with Hitchcock kind of holding his own head. I mean, that's amazing. And it has a lot of stories from classic authors. I know he's always very inspired by Daphne du Maurier, but there's an entire novelette here called Vintage Season by C.L. Moore. There are stories in here by Ray Bradbury and William Hope Hodgson, M.R. James, Frank Belknap Long, but there's also kind of obscure authors I've never heard of, and I really want to be introduced to them. So this should be a lot of fun, and it's kind of like got a few novelettes, a lot of short stories, and one full novel called The Iron Gates by Margaret Millar. So very, very cool. Now, I don't really do comic books, and I've said that a bunch of times on this channel because I find it very difficult to focus on both the artwork and the writing, and then my mind just kind of slips away. But I really have respect for comic books. Like, I respect the artists and the craft of it all. But I couldn't walk away from this. So I'm gonna take it out of the plastic. Don't worry, I'm not gonna start collecting other things besides Weird Tales. Weird Tales is kind of my thing, and I'm sticking to it. But this is The Twilight Zone, and it's got this very cool cover. So couldn't walk away. And it is, you know, kind of like a hybrid of some kind of Weird Tales type of writing and then the actual comics. And it has ads too, and this is from a lot later than the Weird Tales that I usually collect. It's fun to see even the ads from later on too. Another book that I got there was H.P. Lovecraft, The Horror in the Museum. From the table of contents, I'm getting that these are stories written by him under a pseudonym or in collaboration with someone else. I started to just hoard a bunch of Lovecraft adjacent or Lovecraftian things when I find them, especially if they're vintagey. So I'm building a weird fiction library. This is good. It's bound to happen. So yeah. And speaking of that, another place that I went to is called The Word. So this is a bookstore that is kind of famous for being secondhand, but it's mostly literary things. And I couldn't really find a vintage science fiction or weird fiction corner as I usually do. But among their classics, they had Ambrose Bierce, and it was in hardcover. Now, Chris tells me this was a good find. So we have, the book is called Can Such Things Be by Ambrose Bierce. This was published in 1926. It is naked, so I don't think it still has its dust jacket anywhere near it. But it has amazing stories inside, all of which I have not read. Speaking of biographies and early writers, Algernon Blackwood's biography, written by Mike Ashley, came into my lap. I was looking for this for a while, and then recently I heard the two hosts of the Wheel of Genre podcast talk about this biography when they were discussing one of his short stories, and I thought, you know what, I should just read this because this guy sounds fascinating. There's a lot of weird things in his own life as well, and Mike Ashley has written some of my favorite books and anthologized a lot of really cool things. So I trust his writing and his research, and he's very knowledgeable. And I believe in this book. I'm gonna have faith that it's gonna be good. Then I found this book, which initially I wasn't going to get, but it's very Montreal specific. So in Montreal, there's a university. Their main university is called McGill. And if you're from Canada, you obviously know it as one of the top 3 schools, I think, in the country. McGill has an incredible rare book library, and I visited the library a few times. And when librarians put on certain exhibits or they have a campaign of some kind, they put out library catalogs or library exhibition catalogs. And I collect these because I'm a rare book librarian, and it's really fun to see how other curators and librarians kind of share their collection with people, how they like curate that catalog to like, you know, get your attention on some items in particular. And this one features all of their things, but it's putting them in alphabet, kind of like from A to Z, right? But then it's interactive, so you have a lot of like, I don't know, all of these things, like they seem so cool. And it also tells you about some of their rare items, which I find incredible. Like, you got their manuscripts, insects, so you have a pop-up of a butterfly. I don't know, I think this is so cool. Wait, there was one. Oh, this one pops out. I don't know, you see the picture here switches as you twist this little wheel. I think stuff like this is not only creative, but I always think about what it takes to plan something like this for mass production, to send it to the printers for them to mass produce. Like, I think the work involved is extraordinary. I'm gonna keep this in my office at work. I think that's a good place for this. Now, another vintage sci-fi book that got my attention was Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea by Theodore Sturgeon. The cover is spectacular, looks really neat, but also he's a Weird Tales author. I've seen him on a lot of cover featured images, but also inside the Weird Tales magazines. And so far I've loved all of the things I read by him. And I mean, come on, this is pretty cool. I am gonna leave a few things out for the purpose of a Weird Wednesday episode, which is coming up soon on Wednesday. And some of them I featured in the live stream with Jake and Chris. So I'll link that video somewhere, because a few of those books were also hauled in Montreal. Now, another one was Science Fiction Oddities, edited by Groff Conklin. I could not walk away from this weird cover with a chicken and a mouse. I'm not sure what's happening, but it's an anthology of short stories, and it starts off with a story called People Soup, which sounds incredible. I'd love that. Now, at this other bookstore that I went to called Phoenix, or Phoenix Books, this place was magnificent, and it had a lot of vintage sci-fi and a lot of cool things, but the bookstore owner drew my attention to this pile of books that were all kind of from the original printing of an early prototype of like choose your own adventure style books. But I picked this one because this one seemed coolest, and it's House of Hell, where you're basically trapped in this house and it's choose your own adventure. It's really cool. And the illustrations inside are pretty phenomenal as well. Like, it's got a lot going for it. I'm really glad I picked this one. Now, speaking of paperbacks from hell, a book that I recently got is called The Night Boat by Robert R. McCammon. I'm really excited to read this. You know, I love a good ghost ship, and anything creepy out at sea, I'm in. So I had to get this. Now, when I got home, I found the box with some books at my doorstep, and this was a gift that I received from Rob from SpaceArchives. It's a wonderful channel. It's got a lot of vintage sci-fi vibes too, but Rob is hilarious. Like, if you watch his channel, he's one of the funniest people you'll ever meet. And one day he was just talking his usual funny jokes, and in the background there was an entire shelf of Tanith Lee books. And I've never seen so many in one place. They were all beautiful hardcovers and just spectacular collection of Tanith Lee. And I've never read any of her works. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll ask Rob where should I start? And then Rob said, I'm just gonna send you some. So he sent me these 3 beautiful hardcovers of Tanith Lee books. One is called Sometimes After Sunset. I mean, look at this cover. It's spectacular. And then these ones are The Secret Books of Paradise, but it's books 1 and 2 in one volume and 3 and 4 in this one. He said that he has every book and every word that she's ever published, And I believe him. If you look behind him in that video, which I'll link somewhere, you'll see them all. I hope this is a good place for me to start. I also will be reading a short story of hers in another anthology called Amazons, and this is about military sci-fi, about women specifically, and one of her stories is in there. I will be attending a live stream for EBS, the Elusive Exclusive Book Society, very soon, maybe in December, about that book in particular, and that's the one name I kind of recognized among all the vintage sci-fi authors. So yeah, thank you, Rob. This is extraordinary. I will never ever get rid of these. They're my prized possessions. I have 4 more books and then I'm done, I promise. These are H.P. Lovecraft adjacent. So this is called H.P. Lovecraft's Favorite Weird Tales, Discover the Roots of Modern Horror, and it's edited by Douglas A. Anderson. I've seen this book around for a while, but occasionally my friend Chris will put out a video where he'll be like, this story inspired Lovecraft, this story even frightened Lovecraft, or stuff like that. And I noticed that a lot of those stories are in this collection as well, and more. And there are some in here that I've never heard of or read. So these are stories that would have come out either prior to Lovecraft's time or they were his contemporaries. So you have people like Robert W. Chambers, M.R. James, Arthur Machen, Algernon Blackwood, but you also have people like A. Merritt and M.P. Shiel, and some people that were in weird tales like Arthur J. Burks, who kind of led that very first 1923 cover with Ooze. So it's kind of nice to have them all in one place, of stories that we know for sure inspired Lovecraft or had an influence on his works. And then this one I came across by accident. It's called H.P. Lovecraft Against the World, Against Life by Michel Houellebecq. Now, I did a little bit of research because I had filmed me reading the first half of this, and I wasn't really happy with how it went, so I retracted it. But we might try this again soon. All I can tell you is that Michel Houellebecq is also kind of controversial himself. So a lot of controversy in this book. And it's an essay that was written a while back, and even people who had no interest in weird fiction or Lovecraft read this essay. It revived something in the common sphere. At this point, I feel like Lovecraft has entered the Library of America classics kind of thing. It's no longer that niche, but anyway, the introduction is done by Stephen King and it's phenomenal. I'll talk about it more later, but yeah, this was one I got that's adjacent. Another one is Shadows Out of Time, edited by Daryl Schweitzer, and it's also signed by him, so that was pretty exciting. Honestly, I fell in love with the cover and I just got it, and I knew it would be kind of retellings and Lovecraft mythos kind of stories, so pretty cool. And this one I got because it's nonfiction and it's essays, thoughts, contemplations by T.E.D. Klein, and it's called Providence After Dark and Other Writings. And he talks about the very first World Fantasy Convention and meeting other horror or weird fiction writers, and some of the essays are about movies, other terrible people, Twilight Zone, anything that he's conversed with famous authors. It's a pretty chunky book actually, so it's a lot of nonfiction packed in here. And I lied, there is one more book, and this is Famous Fantastic Mysteries. It says 30 great tales of fantasy and horror from the classic pulp magazines Famous Fantastic Mysteries and Fantastics novels. And these are just 30 of the great ones. And I am not going to collect this magazine, though I could. It's found in the same places as Weird Tales. I'm just not collecting any more things other than Weird Tales in terms of pulps or vintage magazines. That's my thing, and I'm sticking to it. But I would like to read some of these. So we have Henry Kuttner, A. Merritt, Robert W. Chambers, William Hope Hodgson. So some mix of classics and more contemporary of the times of this magazine, very similar to Weird Tales. And I like that there's even a Jack London story in here and Arthur C. Clarke. But yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. Some of these I have read, But overall, it's nice to have them all in one volume, and it looks pretty, so I like it. Those are my recently acquired books, most of them from Montreal and some gifted. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will show you 3 more things in a future video, which is my Weird Wednesday, because, well, you'll see. It fits in well with that one. So I'll see you very soon. Bye!